La historia es la ciencia que estudia los acontecimientos que ha vivido el hombre a través de los tiempos. Es por eso que ciertos rubros científicos no han podido dar solución a eventos que han pasado antes de los primeros escritos, ya que no se tiene un registro de ellos. Algunas preguntas que no se han podido resolver, dado a que no se tiene evidencia certera, es: ¿qué hubo antes del Big Bang? ¿La singularidad? ¿Qué tal, amigos de AnalizArte 83? Y sean muy bienvenidos de vuelta al canal. Después de haber escuchado la pequeña introducción, quiero que se den más o menos una idea de este nuevo tipo de video que les traigo el día de hoy. Resulta que decidí hacer una video reacción sobre una mesa redonda que pasa a ser un debate que habla sobre temas muy interesantes, incluso metafísicos y relacionados con la ciencia, con explicaciones muy contundentes de unos personajes que verán a continuación. Así que, sin más que decir, vamos a ello. Bueno, entonces comenzamos con la video reacción de este debate.
Good evening, and welcome to Q&A. I'm Tony Jones, and answering your questions tonight, world-renowned evolutionary biologist and author of...
Empezamos con él. Él es reconocido y muy trascendental en el mundo, ya que, como pueden ver, es un científico, divulgador también se podría llamar, aunque se dedica más a los debates como tal. Él va a ser el ejemplo perfecto para todos aquellos ateos, aunque él entra en una contradicción en algunas partes en las que se argumenta que es un agnóstico más que un ateo.
The God Delusion, Richard Dawkins. And wait a minute. Hold your applause just for a moment. And Australia's most senior Catholic churchman.
Por otra parte, tenemos este padre que es muy importante en su iglesia y que ya verán que tiene ciertos argumentos que se relacionan con la ciencia a la vez que con la iglesia, que son muy contundentes, así que vamos a ellos.
The Archbishop of Sydney, Cardinal George Pell. Please welcome our special guest. Our first question tonight comes from Naomi Roseth.
At Easter, Australia's religious leaders invoke the name of God in order to preach peace, tolerance, political integrity, social and moral fortitude, all obviously positive and worthwhile values. My question is, in what way is the practice of these values dependent on an existing God? Is it possible for an atheist to be a peace-loving, socially responsible?
Aquí viene mi primera opinión y ni dejé a la señora acabar. Ella pregunta: ¿es posible para un ateo ser una persona amante de la paz y socialmente responsable? Mi opinión acerca de esto es que sí es posible, porque todas las personas, cualquiera que sea nuestra creencia o nuestra religión, debemos actuar bajo un juicio moral. Esto quiere decir que tenemos que actuar bien, porque hacer el bien es como nos va a llevar a construir una sociedad productiva. Y esto nos va a dar precisamente estos valores como la paz y la responsabilidad. Así que vamos a ver qué nos dice Richard Dawkins.
Richard Dawkins, let's start with you.
Well, obviously the answer to that question is yes. I mean, that could hardly be otherwise. It is true that Christianity has adopted many of the best values of humanity, but they don't belong to Christianity or indeed to any other religion. I think it would be very sad if it were true that you really did need religion in order to be good. Because if you think about it, what that would mean would be either that you get your morals and your values from the Bible or the Quran or some other holy book, or that you are good only because you're frightened of God, because you don't want to go to hell or you do want to go to heaven. Now, as for getting your morals from the Bible, I very sincerely hope nobody does get their morals from the Bible. It's true that you can find the occasional good verse, and the Sermon on the Mount would be one example, but it's lost amid the awful things that are dotted throughout the Old Testament and actually throughout the New Testament as well, because the idea, the fundamental idea of New Testament Christianity, which is that Jesus is the Son of God who is redeeming humanity from original sin, the idea that we are born in sin, and the only way we can be redeemed from sin is through the death of Jesus. I mean, that's a horrible idea.
Por otra parte, puede ser una idea mala, porque la religión ha expresado que Adán y Eva en realidad son una metáfora. Incluso aquí el padre lo va a mencionar. Entonces, ¿en qué momento es en el que se causa el pecado original? ¿Y por qué nacemos con él? Y precisamente él lo relaciona con esto, aparte de por qué con la muerte de una persona es que se nos redime de ese pecado.
It's a horrible idea that God, this paragon of wisdom and knowledge, power, couldn't think of a better way to forgive us our sins than to come down to earth in his alter ego as his son and have himself hideously tortured and executed so that he could forgive himself.
Okay, let's go to George Pell on that.
Well, there's quite a few things that might be said. First of all, our tradition goes back about 4,000 years. So whatever values are that we've taken over, we've got to go back a little bit of a distance. And it's interesting to look at pagan Rome before there was Christian influence. 40% were slaves. Men and women fought one another to the death.
Bueno, pero también hay que tomar en cuenta que cuando la iglesia cristiana llegó a la Roma pagana, pues reprimieron a los ciudadanos con los mismos, incluso hasta peores métodos de tortura, para que se fueran a la religión cristiana, a la vez que iban denigrando todas las cuestiones paganas de los romanos. Entonces, pues, es una cosa de dar y perder en realidad.
In the Circus Maximus or the Colosseum, women had no rights whatsoever. Infanticide was practiced regularly. The noble families didn't want baby girls. Christianity changed that, not perhaps by itself, but largely. And the Christian story, we're Christians, we're New Testament people. There was an evolution in the Old Testament.
Sí cambiaron la cuestión de que no querían mujeres en las familias, pero actualmente no han cambiado la cuestión de que no hay sacerdotisas, por ejemplo.
There are some awful things there. It developed. The notion of God was purified as it went through the Old Testament.
Can I just interrupt you just to bring you to the point of the question, which was really about whether atheists can lead a good life and be good people and socially responsible and so on.
Yeah, absolutely.
You accept that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it helps to believe in God because there's a Polish poet, Milosz, who says that the opium of the people today is the belief that they won't be judged by God when they die, that those who've committed great crimes, done awful things, are going to get away with it, and that the people who've suffered unjustly, had terrible lives, that's it.
Okay, let's move quickly to our second question. It's from Claire Bonner.
Religion is precisely often blamed for being the root of war and conflict. But what about all the good it has done for our society? God-centered religion is...
Bueno, antes de continuar quiero que chequen bien este patrón, y es que muchas de las personas que van a hacer preguntas en realidad se ve que son cristianos. Entonces, sus preguntas pues van a estar enfocadas precisamente a su interés en su misma religión. Entonces vamos a escuchar.
Birthplace of schools, universities, hospitals, and countless developments in science as well. Richard, if you believe the human drive to seek the truth and to constantly improve ourselves is merely a mechanism for survival, then what's the point and why should I bother?
It's an astonishing idea to say, why should you bother just because we have a scientific understanding of why we're here. We do have a scientific understanding of why we're here, and we therefore have to make up our own meaning to life. We have to find our own purposes in life, which...
Y aquí volvemos a unos temas que estuve tratando justamente en el video anterior. Resulta que Richard Dawkins y la ciencia en general van a sustentar y van a apoyar precisamente al existencialismo. Esto quiere decir que las personas por sí mismas van a tener que buscar su propio propósito en la vida en vez de tener ya una esencia, que es lo que diría por ejemplo la religión, que ya naces y vas a tener que seguir los sacramentos, entre otras cuestiones.
Not derived directly from our scientific history. When you say that Christianity has been responsible for a lot of good, including science, by the way, which is somewhat ironic, I think that most of the great benefits in humanity, such as the abolition of slavery, such as the emancipation of women, which the Cardinal mentioned both of, these have been wrung out of our Christian history without much support from Christianity. I, as an atheist, my friends as atheists, lead thoroughly worthwhile lives, in our opinion, because we stand up, look the world in the face up to the fact that we are not going to last forever. We have to make the most of the short time that we have on this planet. We have to make this planet as good as we possibly can and try to leave it a better place than we found it.
Now, to some degree, you've already answered this, but there is a follow-up question. I'm going to go to that now. It's from Rebecca Ray.
Okay, my question for you today is, without religion, where is the basis of our values? And in time, will we perhaps revert back to Darwin's idea of survival of the fittest?
Richard Dawkins, you can answer that and I'll bring in Cardinal Pell.
I very much hope that we don't revert to the idea of survival of the fittest in planning our politics and our values and our way of life.
Aquí realmente estoy muy de acuerdo con Richard Dawkins, ya que esta parte que nos menciona Darwin de que sobrevive el más apto, en realidad no tiene que ser aplicado por los humanos para los humanos, porque aquí estaríamos regresando a eventos muy fuertes y muy tristes como la eugenesia en la Segunda Guerra Mundial y varios procesos que se han llevado en la historia de la humanidad por el simple hecho de que denigran a otros grupos y a otras sociedades. Entonces, esto de que sobreviven los más aptos en una sociedad de personas o que se tome en la política, que se llama darwinismo social, es muy malo porque en realidad estarías poniendo a un lado a ciertas personas en la sociedad que por ser poquito menos aptos para realizar ciertas actividades, pues en realidad van a acabar extintos, por decirlo de alguna manera. ¿Qué es lo que sucede con la selección natural de Darwin? Que en realidad para las especies, pues sí sabemos que hay una selección natural, que sobrevive el más apto, y no es por nada que nosotros ahorita estamos hablando así.
I've often said that I'm a passionate Darwinian when it comes to explaining why we exist. It's undoubtedly the reason why we're here and why all living things are here. But to live our lives in a Darwinian way, to make a society a Darwinian society, that would be a very unpleasant sort of society in which to live. It would be a sort of Thatcherite society. And we want to, I mean, in a way, I feel that one of the reasons for learning about Darwinian evolution is as an object lesson in how not to set up our values and our social life.
Sí, porque bueno, a final de cuentas, si tú tomas tus valores de un darwinismo social, pues en realidad vas a ser una persona que va a tener ideales de siempre ser el mejor, que aunque no sea totalmente malo porque te ayuda a ponerte metas, pero pues vas a caer en cuestiones en las que vas a denigrar a personas. Entonces pues esto es malo para nuestros propios valores y para nuestra propia moralidad.
Well, it's interesting because I think in the space of about 2 minutes, Richard has said two different things. One of which is that science can't tell us why we're here, and then in the next minute trying to say that it does.
No, I said it can tell us why we're here.
It can't.
Well, I simply contradict you in that case.
Well, what is the reason that science gives why we're here? Science tells us how things happen. Science tells us nothing about why there was the Big Bang, why there is a transition from inanimate matter to living.
Bueno, aquí hacemos una pausa y esto que está diciendo el padre, pues en realidad no lo acepto yo en totalidad, yo que sigo en realidad a la ciencia, porque hay muchas teorías que incluso están más posicionadas que las teorías religiosas, y el ejemplo es el Big Bang, relacionándolo con lo que dije al principio en la introducción, que en realidad la ciencia sí está tratando de explicar cómo es que se produjo el Big Bang, que antes había antimateria y materia, y de alguna manera u otra fusionaron y crearon todo lo que podemos percibir al día de hoy, pero lo van a explicar más a profundidad enseguida, así que vamos a seguir.
Science is silent on... we could solve most of the questions in science and it would leave all the problems of life almost completely untouched. Why be good?
There are... why be good is a separate question, which I also came to. Why we exist, you're playing with the word why there. Science is working on the problem of the antecedent factors that lead to our existence. Now, why in any further sense than that, why in the sense of purpose, is, in my opinion, not a meaningful question. You cannot ask a question like, why do mountains exist, as though mountains had some kind of purpose. What you can say is, what are the causal factors that lead to the existence of mountains? And the same with life, and the same with the universe. Now, science over the centuries has gradually pieced together answers to those questions. Why in that sense? It's true that there are still some gaps, but surely, Cardinal, you're not going to fall for the God of the gaps trap of saying that, that religion is going to fill in those gaps which science has so far not yet answered.
No, I'm not going to be diverted at all. I'm happy to come back to that.
Okay.
We will be coming back to it because I know there are questions that relate to some of the bigger issues you're talking about, but you can respond and then we'll move on to our next
I hope I'll be allowed to.
You certainly
Thanks. It's part of being human to ask why we exist. Questioning distinguishes us from the animals. It's to ask why we're here. So, I repeat, and this is a commonplace in science, science has nothing to say about that. As whatever it might say about mountains, it can't say what is the purpose of human life. And it's not Maggie Thatcher who was in the epitome or the personification of social Darwinism. It's Hitler and Stalin. Because it's the struggle for survival. The strong take what they can and the weak give what they must, and there's nothing to restrain them. And we've seen that in the two great atheist movements of the last century.
No, that's ridiculous. That is ridiculous. Nice unbiased audience you've assembled here, by the way.
Bueno, relacionar esto que acaba de decir con el padre con el ateísmo puede que sí sea un tanto incorrecto. Si bien, como ya les mencioné antes, estos movimientos que realizaron, pues sí tienen hasta cierto punto un aire de darwinismo social. Sin embargo, está mal relacionarlo con el ateísmo. Ahorita nos va a explicar Richard Dawkins por qué.
Right. Let's clearly distinguish two things here. First, atheism had nothing to do with Hitler or Stalin. Stalin was an atheist, Hitler was not. It doesn't matter what they were with respect to atheism. They did their horrible things for entirely different reasons. Now, you are right when you say that aspects of what Hitler tried to do could be regarded as arising out of Darwinian natural selection. That's exactly why I said that I despise Darwinian natural selection as a motto for how we should live. I tried to say we should not live by Darwinian principles, but Darwinian principles explain how we got here and why we exist in the scientific sense. Now, Cardinal, you said it's part of human nature to want to ask the question why, in the sense of purpose. It may very well be part of human nature, but that doesn't make it a valid question. There are all sorts of questions which you can ask. What's funny about that? What is funny about that?
Okay, we'd like the audience not to yell out. If we can do that, that'd be great. We're going to move on.
I didn't finish, I'm sorry.
Okay, well, finish your point.
Okay.
Because there are lots of questions pertaining to this. We will
The question why is not necessarily a question that deserves to be answered. There are all sorts of questions that people can ask, like, what is the color of jealousy? That's a silly question.
Exactly.
Sí, claro, aquí caemos realmente en cuestiones absurdas, ya que hay muchas preguntas que en realidad en este mundo muy probablemente nunca se respondan, y hay otras preguntas que no específicamente la ciencia va a estar respondiendo.
Why is a silly question. Why is a silly question. You can ask, what are the factors that led to something coming into existence? That's a sensible question. But what is the purpose of the universe is a silly question. It has no meaning.
Could I just interpose very briefly?
Very briefly.
I think it's a very poignant and real question to ask, why is there suffering?
We will be asking that question, believe it or not. This is Q&A. It's live and interactive. Tonight we're experimenting with QuantiVote, a new way for Q&A viewers to share their opinions on the issues we discuss. You can go to the...
Bueno, amigos de AnalizArte 83, hasta aquí vamos a dejar esta primer parte del debate que, como ven, es muy interesante y está algo intenso. Entonces estén atentos a las redes sociales del canal para ver cuándo es que se continúa esta miniserie. Nos vemos en el siguiente video.